I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2016 to order. Before we get into public forum and a couple items, can we revise the agenda to move item number 4 up to where number 2 is? So item number 4 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and 3 becomes 4. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public forum, anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing none, let's move on to item 2, which is review and accept report of expenditures of the Board of Education for December 2015. Linda, good evening, and Christine Cohn, welcome to the board, your first Board of Finance meeting as a presenter, as a new board member. Boy, they threw you right into this pretty quickly. So, is there anything you'd like to bring to our attention?
Nothing unusual for the month of December. Total expenditures were $4,851,047.49. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of December were 44.15% of the budget as compared with 44.53% in the prior year. And total warrants were $2,396,187.12. Any questions?
Yes, I'm sure they do. I'll open it up to the board members. Anybody want to start? Mike?
Question under purchase services. Just noticed that we're a little over 100% on safety, sanitation, and upkeep of building and grounds. Any concerns regarding the 100%?
Other than the fact that they've already overspent their budget? Yes.
Well,
Actually,
sometimes it's a timing issue, or we're going to get something's going to come back, but
yeah, we're looking at some of their open purchase orders to see if there's some that maybe we can free up some money so that they won't be over budget or as far over budget. But they've had a number of costs related to the fitness center that we've had to do. There've been some items for the new high school that weren't included that we've had to do. So they've had some things that they weren't quite expecting. So we're telling, at this point, facilities has been instructed to kind of hold the line on their site improvement budget to kind of offset some of that until we can see a little bit further in the year where they're going to be.
yeah, the encumbrances are over 50% of that, so.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Hoping there's some that we can
Okay.
free up in there.
Thank you.
I think you told us at the last meeting, Linda, that you would give us an update on tuition, projections for tuition. Can you do that now, or do you need another month on that?
I can tell you that it is going to be over budget. We've had a couple outplacements that we didn't anticipate. I don't want to nail down a number right now because I haven't really discussed it with the superintendent yet. But right now, it is definitely trending that it is going to be over budget. We're of course, are going to do our best to cover it within our existing budget and not have to come back and ask for additional funds because it's the last thing we want to
Is that geared
do.
to the start of the calendar year and the spring semester? Is there like a reevaluation, or is there like a point in the year where these numbers can change dramatically? Or is it unpredictable?
It's
It can happen at
unpredictable.
any time?
It can happen
Tomorrow.
at any time. And it could be anything from, a sudden issue with an existing student. It could be somebody moving into district. There's so many factors, it's hard to predict. It's unfortunately one of those areas that's really hard to nail down.
Lou?
Couple items. In the minutes of your December 14th meeting,
Board or operations?
well, it's the Operations Committee, but it's a board meeting.
Right, but there are two.
There's a report from the Operations Committee. Mrs. Renner notes that the Operations Committee received a positive report on the health insurance program. And I mean, we were just in the meeting with the Board of Ed reporting on next year's budget, but I'm sort of just curious what that report is exactly, what makes it positive, what's going on there? Back page.
At the time of that report, it was, the claims were trending lower. I think after that, we had
2 months in a row.
a little bit, yes, some spike in it. But that overall, the claims were trending.
So the
little bit
positive
better
report
is-
is just the delivery of the information regarding this year's claims? There's not
Right.
some outside report that
No.
we've gotten, somebody's done some analysis? Because we heard quite a bit about the consultant, and I just was, that line was ambiguous. I couldn't figure out what
No, it was just him
claims history
giving,
for this year.
talking about the claim history and where
Okay.
it looked like we were.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Then I have an item in your budget report, your ongoing budget report, the custodial line item. Is another one that appears to be sort of spiking, and that I assume is other than salaries, right? That $106,000 is not representing the salary expenses.
That's custodial supplies.
Okay.
Right.
And why is it 40% higher than last year at this point?
It's timing of when they do their purchases. They try and do them a couple times a year. They do it for the start of school, and they usually do them in January. But they had done some of their orders at the end of December. So they split up their purchases to really only twice a year.
So there's no trouble lurking in there, it's just a function of when the purchases went in?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a significant amount under encumbrances as well.
Yes.
Right,
It's just the timing of those.
those encumbrances
orders.
as well. Good.
I have a question.
Certainly.
Telephone in the budget, telephone's down or as a percentage, but I see that there's year-to-date revenue of $25,000. What was that?
That was the E-rate fund. So it's your universal service fund, whichever name you want to call it by. So we get the percentage back, and actually Matt, I think, understands this probably better than I do.
Yes.
We get money back for every line.
There's a federal program that K-12 schools and libraries are entitled to participate in, which gives them reimbursements on eligible telecommunications services. For those of you who aren't aware of the smaller details on your telephone bills, including your cell phone bill, there's something called a USF charge. That USF charge gets aggregated on a national level. Schools then have an opportunity to apply for reimbursements for things like wide area network connections, internet access, those kinds of things. And the school has been participating in that program, getting some reimbursement. So I guess that the natural question from that is, this is showing up as revenue. Were you anticipating that revenue in the budget allocation or the budget expenditure? And will you be, reflecting the expected reimbursement in next year's budget?
I don't believe we were expecting that much in this year's budget. We did anticipate some for next year's budget. But for now I believe we're only getting it on the internet access lines. I don't believe we're getting it on the phone lines.
No, you have the dial tone, the voice lines, yeah, that's
So
no
it's just,
longer
we just get it
eligible.
on the internet
Yep.
connections.
Yep, so it will decrease.
But we did factor that into next year's budget.
Ken.
Just to comment on the minutes of the board's operations committee, item 7 on the food service reports. Could you elaborate on that, because I'm a little puzzled. The lunch counts are up in the high school and middle school, and they're down in the elementary schools. What accounts for that? Basically, we're running, you're saying it's the best month for food service. Did the numbers reflect that, since so many children are in the elementary schools?
It was not the best
was
one.
not the best
It was
one.
not
It was
the
not
best
the
one.
best month
Oh, it's not, pardon me.
for the food service.
Not does change the meaning of the sentence.
Yes, it does.
I know that she had mentioned that she was providing more offerings at the high school and looking to provide some new and exciting offerings at the elementary schools as well to try and boost some of those sales. And she did think that some of those offerings at the high school maybe accounted for some of the increased sales.
She's trying to change the menu, she's trying to find ways to increase sales in all the schools. We're doing a startup program in just one of the elementary schools with a salad bar, because there seemed to be a big interest in getting the salad bar going in the elementary schools. So we're started at one school, and we're going to be putting it into all the elementary schools.
So Melissa Jones has a salad bar.
Yes, Melissa Jones has a salad bar, and all the other schools will be getting it. So she's trying to find the things that are gonna make the program successful. She has been here for just a little over a year, and inherited a program that wasn't necessarily doing that well in the beginning, and I think she's doing great strides to try and move it forward.
Yeah, she'll be visiting other schools in the near, not-so-distant future to look at their programs as well, successful programs like Greenwich. So she presented us with food service calendars for those schools and what they're doing, what they're charging, what their offerings look like, and she'll be exploring that further.
I would assume she's meeting with PTA representatives as well to try to get some sense from the family leaderships in these schools as to what's going on.
She has met with some of them. She meets with a health advisory committee. She meets with the principals. She spends time in the cafeterias when she can, kind of walking around and talking to the kids. So she's trying to do as much as she can. She is a staff of one person, so it's hard to spread her a little thin sometimes, but we're putting in new software, which is going to hopefully streamline the checkout process, but also give parents more information on what their students are buying. It's going to change the program where parents can put money on the kids' lunch accounts. And the rest of this software that we're going to be installing over the next year offers her a whole lot of features as far as inventory control and menu planning and nutritional analysis. So she can plan these menus that are going to meet the state guideline, federal guidelines that are things that the kids are going to want to eat.
Got a question on I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Mine's very, very simple. Basically, I'm looking at this two-tier start date time for schools. When they say an early start time, is there, how early and how late? I guess it's 7 o'clock now, 7:30?
7:30.
So, yeah, so what would be the late start date?
I don't
Or
have
time,
the,
rather.
I don't have the times.
For the high
With
school,
me?
we're primarily, the Board of Ed would primarily focus on option 2, which would be an 8 o'clock start time for the high school as opposed to 7:30. That seemed to, and the survey results indicated that was the more favorable option out of the two. But it really needs to be explored further.
There is a report on our website from the District Management Council, DMC, that did the study of the start times.
Yes.
And the options are spelled out in that report. So any of the board members or members of the public that want to go to our website and look at that report and get more information on those options, it's on there.
Now, considering the fact that the cost with additional busing might be $300,000 to $500,000, I mean, does it warrant having another bus run as opposed to trying to basically standardize and having just one bus run to kind of, have the later start time, but also, keep the budget under control?
Yeah, we are exploring those options right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Special services, currently running under budget. Those always look good, but I'm always concerned that there may be something lurking.
I have been meeting with Pupil Services every month and reviewing where we are. Currently, Pupil Services is projecting that account could come in about $100,000 under budget this year.
Any reasons for that?
They are trying to control the use of some of these outside services, trying to come up with alternatives instead of immediately jumping for going towards evaluations and some of these things, trying to do more in-house.
Would you anticipate similar type savings for next year? And you know what that question's at. What was the number we just saw in our previous meeting? I'm pretty obvious, huh?
Not for those people who weren't in the meeting.
I am optimistic that we're gonna hit that $100,000 savings mark. I think the budget number that we have in our budget for next year is a reasonable number.
Okay.
It's similar. About 20,000 less.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Warrants?
Anybody have any questions on expenditures? Any further ones before we go to warrants? Insurance at 77%, just timing.
Yes.
The last one for me, the site improvement, safety, sanitation, and upkeep. What were the drivers that have pushed that over, and what's left to be done that may or may not get done, or will have to be funded from other sources?
There have been some additional work for the fitness center.
Okay.
Some additional things for the high school building itself that were not included in the original plan.
Okay.
At this point, we're hoping, I mean, there's a lot of required testing and stuff that we have to do in that.
Right.
I'm not sure if anything specific that we're saying at this time we're not gonna do.
It's obviously a line that you're gonna have to fund from somewhere else.
Yeah, we're looking at, right now, kind of holding off on, a little bit on the custodial supplies, a little bit on site improvement, and, seeing what else we can kind of toe the line on.
Good. All right, warrants, Ken, I think.
Yeah, I had one question here. On page 10 of the warrants, 3 from the bottom, there's an item in there for a $23,600 reimbursement for tuition. Now, the name's withheld, which is perfectly understandable, but could you give us some background on that? Why is there such a tremendous reimbursement?
It is for tuition for a student, and it was our agreement that we have to pay for the tuition for this student. So, whether it's
So
paid to the reimbursed to the parent or paid directly to the school,
Right, there was an appeal then of some sort,
it was a settlement.
the settlement, okay.
Linda, on page 1 and 2, significant number of expenditures on HVAC, several invoices for the same school on the same day, 4 of them for Adams. Was it for work done on different times, and it just showed the same invoice date, because it looked like Air Dynamics decided that they needed to get some billing out the door, but,
When we reviewed them, they,
I could, want me to answer it?
sure.
So most of it
Hours
is Jones,
of labor.
actually. They
Yep.
had a problem at Jones. They had to replace a big section. They had to take the cooling tower apart. It includes 44 hours of labor plus an additional 100 hours of labor. They had to take the cooling tower down, take it apart, and clean it.
There's some calcium buildup in there.
Flow tests have been completed. They had big problems with Jones, and with Baldwin, they had some issues as well on HVAC.
gotcha. Thank you, Ken.
Which sort of, the question remains, though, why break it up into different invoices like that? It's just a little strange.
I agree with that, and they didn't really
I don't
address that at
think
the
they were
meeting,
actually
frankly.
on the same date. I think when I looked at them, and maybe
Most of them are 9/1.
one,
Different
like,
service
yeah.
days,
the,
but
right,
still-
it
Different service days,
says
but
44
billed.
hours of labor for one
Okay.
day, another day was 100 hours. But it wasn't a specific day.
It's
It was
impressive getting
over-
100 hours in one
Yeah,
day.
I'm sorry. They billed on that day.
project.
They
It's not
billed.
just
I want that guy right now.
Right, so it was over the course, it was over a time period.
They also have the maintenance contract for the boiler cleaning and burner tuning. And
Yeah, just.
That time of year.
as good as this company is,
That's what we
their
use.
billing sometimes is a little lagging. So the fact that it could be all dated 9/1,
Right.
the service date was probably
Probably
something
different
different.
service.
Right.
We touched on this in the other meeting. I'm stunned at the cost of HVAC upgrades and repairs, and we've got some bonding coming forward where for one school, they're talking about 3.4 million, and you know this better than I do, but 3.4 million just to get the electrical system upgraded so that it can accommodate the replacement of the HVAC system, because, which is going to be another $4 million. And I think that's Baldwin maybe that they're talking about
But it's-
doing that, and that's coming up for potential bonding
Yeah, what-
next year.
well-
I'm stunned at the prices that I see for these HVAC upgrades and replacements.
When Lee, I can't go into detail just because it's been a while now, but prior to my time on the board with the Standing Building Committee, Calvin Leet was done, and that was about I want to say $3.5 or $4 million project for the same thing. What ends up happening is it's the infrastructure, but then you got to take the ceilings down, put the ceilings up, then there's issues with the lighting, there's issues with the electrical having to be upgraded to provide the power that the HVAC needs. It's one thing leads to
Cascades.
another, to another, to another. So it's not like duct cleaning or replacing some metal work, which I know you're not saying it is, but it is pretty astronomical what the cost is when you have to take everything down and put it all back up. It's really labor intensive more than it is material.
My understanding, Michael, is also you have a pretty narrow window to get all that work done.
Yeah,
You're trying to avoid
good
doing
point.
it
So
during
you're
the
doing a
school
lot of
year.
overtime, you're doing a lot of time and a half work to get in there on certain hours, certain days, certain months during the summer to get it done. And Leet was really tight to do it. It had 3 months and that was it. So, yeah.
Linda, on page 4, Christine, if you're comfortable with it, on page 5, permit payments, the invoice dated 7/31/2015 shows the coverage for 7/1/14 to 7/1/15. Is that just a typo, or is that out of last year's funds?
I questioned this numerous times to Karma, and it has to do with the endorsement that they did for the purchases through the technology lease. So it was for the additional equipment that we purchased through the technology lease, and we questioned the dates, and they said those were the dates of the purchase of the equipment. And that's the way they wrote the endorsement, was to cover those purchases during that year. And this is the only year that we have had them do an endorsement for technology
technology,
purchases. I'm still arguing with Kerma over it, but
I have a question regarding irrigation. I see a lot of irrigation bills at the schools in the summertime, and clearly the schools aren't in session. Does the Board of Ed pay for the irrigation when the town is using it for sporting events? Is that the agreement that we
That
have?
was the agreement that was done.
And I imagine you gotta maintain those turf fields, the grass fields.
I'm talking about the grass ones.
Grass
all-
fields.
The
all
grass,
the time,
that's what I mean, but even if they weren't being used a lot, you're still gonna need to irrigate them maybe for fall seasons. I mean, you know what I mean?
No, I just, when I see it under the Board of Ed and I see summertime billing, I'm just curious.
Right,
Sure.
it's a good question. Ken?
Yeah, on page 6, special ed, transportation of about $17,000. It says for October 2015. Is that the actual invoices incurred in that month, or,
Yes.
It's over 9 days.
so there's no surprises there? This is what we had budgeted for, it's what we had estimated?
That's only a piece of it.
I know.
Right, that's just-
It's a
right.
1-month piece.
Right.
No, that's just one contractor.
One contractor.
Because we
One
spend, what,
contractor.
800,000 a year on special ed
Right.
buses, right? So that's one contractor for
They
1 month.
split these up to contract out
Well, we
separate
have
runs.
3 of them?
Get the,
Three.
multiple.
We have multiple.
For special ed, there's some, as I understand it, there's as few as 1 or 2 kids per
Right.
Right,
contract.
right.
Just to make it as efficient as possible.
Somebody at the, one of the Board of Ed meetings brought up the advance on the cards. I was a little concerned about this. Kids in town put money on their lunch cards as an advance. I think you call it Power Lunch. And apparently there's $83,000 that was in this power lunch account, which has been used, so there's no money. That money's been pre-spent, basically, not on lunches. Is that typical, or somebody asked the question in the meeting and
Right,
they didn't,
so-
it wasn't really answered, I didn't think.
Well, right now, we have $83,000 that has been put onto students' accounts. And so that money is sitting in our bank account, or was in our bank account. Due to a cash flow issue, we have used those funds to pay current bills. We're waiting on funds from the state to come in for the federal lunch program. We have some other state funds that we were waiting for to come in. So at the time, we had used those funds out of our account. So we're monitoring the cash flow to pay our bills, but using these funds that had already come into us from student
But
lunches.
let's be clear on something. We haven't debited those individual accounts.
No.
They still have the
Right,
credit.
the kids are still
and-
allowed to
and use it.
buy.
So this is basically moving money on a cash basis? Is that
Right.
what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So it's coming out of, if your expenditures for the month are 4 million though, what account, is it out of the same account that these warrants are getting paid out
It's-
of then?
Sloppy
Then you say that the cash,
It's a separate fund from the Board of Ed budget.
yeah,
So it's a separate fund, separate bank account for.
Just for the
student-
lunch
Just for
program?
the lunch program.
okay.
So, and it pays just for the lunch program expenses, the salary of the staff, the purchase of the food, the other supplies that they need to run the program. So,
And we have historically lost money in that account.
yes.
Not a
Prior
lot of
to the
money,
power
it's 50,
lunch,
it's
yeah.
not a lot of money that the
Yeah,
lunch
prior
program
to,
loses.
prior to
no,
the
yeah.
advent of the power lunch program, we were still losing money in that account.
In the cafeteria account,
Right,
yeah.
Right.
But so it's all, when you say there's a cash problem, it's just with that cafeteria account? you
Right,
keep it separate.
right.
Linda, I have a question on page 13, Sound School tuition. Try as I might, I couldn't figure out, one tuition for $20,925, 6 tuitions for $40,938, and another one tuition for $6,823. And
Okay, so
Is
the
that timing of
standard,
bills?
the standard tuition for Sound School is $6,823.
Okay,
So
that
you have,
one, that's
you
right
have
there,
7
okay.
students at that. There is one Sound School student who has special education services.
Okay.
So there's an additional charge for special education service, that's the bill for $20,925. So it's the $6,000 for the regular tuition plus the almost $14,000 for special ed for that one student.
Thank you. That answers that question. Quite succinctly. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a couple, Matt.
Lou?
I see on page 2, $24,758 for high school gym floor protection. Well, I'm not sure why it's coming out of a general fund account at this point in the process. That's not something that, I mean, the floor wasn't protected when we got it.
Right, so these
Michael?
aren't, it's not gym floor finish, these are actual mats that go on the gym floor. So to
Okay.
protect the floor. And actually, the building committee is going to be reimbursing us for this purchase.
Okay.
So
It
it's-
feels like a new building item.
Right, yeah, the building committee is paying for it. We paid for it, we purchased it, we paid for it, we're billing the building committee, they're gonna reimburse us for this. It's mats that go on the floor so that, they were doing testing in there, so they were putting tables and chairs on the gym floor. So in order to protect the floor, they put this protective mat on the floor.
And what's the lifespan of these things? I mean, where are they stored? Was this accounted for? I mean, there's some place to store these?
Probably in the auxiliary gym.
Yeah, I think they roll up, I
Yeah.
don't know how
would-
big they
I
are.
would
They get
assume they
hoisted
were
to the
accounted
ceiling,
for.
like the rest of them in the auxiliary gym? The wrestling mats, which are,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure where
they're
they're storing them, to be honest with you.
and did this include protection for the auxiliary gym as well, or just the main gym? Don't answer if you don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I really don't know. I don't remember.
I have a couple.
You,
Oh,
Lou?
sorry.
Yeah.
On this page, under CIRMA, insurance, liability, auto property, $47,777.
Ted, what page is that?
Page
Yeah.
5.
how many, what people and vehicles, what are we talking about there? I'm just curious, sense of the numbers.
So we have the maintenance trucks, there's 4 or 5. We have the plow, the dump truck with the plow. We have the van. So 6 vehicles off the top of my head.
And this is just auto insurance on 6 vehicles?
No, it's liability, auto, and property. Is that $47,000?
Yeah,
It's liability insurance, property insurance, and auto insurance.
okay. Isn't that high?
It depends on what's covered under the property. You're
You
talking
just
about
said
the
4 cars and a truck.
Well, no, but is she saying, are you saying
There's
it's
no plan.
liability and property coverage for the?
Yes, it's the liability. Liability
Somebody
for the whole
slips, well, of course, you got all
district,
sorts of
right.
municipal issues here too, but.
Oh, it's for the whole district?
Right, this is.
Oh,
it's
okay,
So
not-
this covers the property as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is
Okay.
a quarterly bill.
That's a quarterly bill. Just got bigger.
Oh, wait,
No, it's an annual bill.
Annual bill.
This is
This
an
annual
one's
bill.
annual, sorry.
Yeah, it's
Unless
an
that
annual bill.
notation is incorrect. Okay. And just a couple more quick ones. So I know you've explained this before, although it's just great to see this number to this point in the year where it's snowed exactly like 3/4 of an inch, right?
Hold your breath.
Right, we're paying a fixed number, right? 11,450. So that's a quarterly bill,
Payment 105, or 205.
205.
Right, so
But
it's
a fixed bill,
55,
whatever the
that's correct.
contract is. So if between now, Joe, hold your ears, between here and March 15th, it goes off the rails, this contractor is responsible to clean every single time. So
Right,
we
for the
took-
high school.
That's just for the high
unusual-
school.
Right, just for the
Yeah,
high school.
because of the unusual circumstances at the high,
Right.
at the high school, the changes that are gonna be taking place in the
Right.
property that they have to take care of, the paving's gonna be, right?
Right.
So that's an unusual one-year event that's gonna be this kind of, and next year, we're gonna see completely different numbers.
No, they're
Sorry.
budgeting 80,000 next year.
Well, I understand, but it's gonna be a different type of contract. It's not gonna be a fixed number that, if it didn't snow at all, we would have still been on the hook.
I
Seeking
appreciate that,
additional
yeah.
bids for
Right,
next year.
we're gonna be bidding it out next year, and we're looking at the best way to structure the bid, whether it's going to be a per event, whether it's going to be a flat rate, what our options are, but it's going to be bid out, because we don't have the equipment to do the high school.
I understand.
So we did increase our budget for next year for snow removal to cover the high school. We just haven't determined how we're going to structure the bid yet.
Okay, I do have a few more here. There's a lot, and I mean, an entire page, and then scattered throughout, Amazon charges, things like toner cartridges and such. I'm assuming that the legwork has gone in to make sure that the local Staples or whatever other potential contractor in the area can't match these prices. I
As a
mean,
private business, I could tell you that, yeah, it's way better.
They provide
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we-
sure it's been vetted because we
we-
do the same thing. Yeah, Amazon is usually a much better way to go.
We usually check at least 4 different sources.
We use them.
Okay.
So it's Amazon, Staples, WB Mason, and then a company called E Plus, which is, they've done a bid through the Connecticut Consortium of Cooperative Purchasing that we use. So we checked that bid as well.
Okay.
And it fluctuates, but Amazon's been,
You have an unsolicited endorsement from
thank you, Mike.
this end here. Okay, I do have,
Along those same lines,
oh, yeah, Matt, sure.
on page 9 and into page 10, Hampton Zimmerman Electric Supply. I happen to know that that outfit is out of Massachusetts. Is that also, how did we come upon that as an electrical supplier as opposed to a local or Connecticut vendor?
Don't they have a facility in Guilford?
Hampton? Is that the one on
It's
Post
the one on the
Road?
post road, isn't
Right,
it?
Is
yeah,
it?
I think-
I don't know, is that what that's called?
No, that's a plumbing place.
You mean where Star Fish Market is in there?
Yeah, right in there.
There is an electrical place
It's
in
an
there, but I don't know the
electrical
name of it.
I don't either.
I,
That doesn't ring
I
a bell.
thought
It
they,
is
I
not
thought they were
Hampton
local,
Zimmerman?
but to be honest with you, I'm not sure off the
Okay.
top of my head. I can check into it.
Lou, sorry to jump on your
That's all right.
question.
All right, and the last one, was it just me, or there's various mileage reimbursements in the 10s and 20s and 30s. There's somebody here for $1,320, and then just to add to the mystery, name withheld for privacy. Page 7. How did somebody rack up,
My assumption is that's,
was that a special
It's a
ed?
Special
special
education.
education.
Oh, so that's the parent making the
driving.
Yes,
driving?
parent driving a student.
That explains it. That explains it.
Parent drivers.
And we have 2 of those.
Okay.
And I don't know if both are in this warrant, but we have 2 that are doing that.
Special ed transportation.
Yes.
That's a yearly fee?
So why, that's
that's a
interesting
month.
though, that why does it not go into special ed transportation? Just leave it billed in an odd way then?
No, it does, it gets
Well,
charged,
it gets charged off.
it gets charged to special ed transportation.
Okay, so
That's just the description that
on
we
the invoice,
put on there so that we know.
to generate questions at our meeting.
I mean,
If we put
obviously,
this down, somebody's gonna ask.
There's got to be many, many families. There's no way that one family could be reimbursed for 1 month, $1,300.
Yes.
Yes.
That's actually a huge savings from what we pay to have some of the busing done,
It's the
And that's-
location of the school,
potentially.
It's mileage
It's miles.
reimbursement?
mileage
How far can we go?
reimbursed. It's along the eastern coast of Connecticut. It's Groton, New London, out
I
Waterford,
mean,
out
listen,
that way.
it's the federal, it's like 52 cents, that's 700 miles.
57?
No, it
57.
just
57 last
changed.
year.
It changed January 1st. They dropped it down.
54, yeah.
It's
So
down
the
to
point is,
54.
700 miles in a month, if you're driving any.
Yeah, if this was for
significant
December,
difference.
you know, it was the 57 and a
2
half
trips a
cents.
day.
2 trips a
Two
day.
trips a day, you're right.
Right. Round trip, 2 times. And it does
Any
come out
others?
cheaper than what we pay for some of our buses.
Yes.
I just have one down at the bottom of page 7. Eversource, the high school bill for November to December. Are we thinking that's going to be an accurate reflection of what the monthly cost is going to be through the winter
Wait,
going
do I get to be
forward?
the bad guy again on this one? So everybody was so excited when they saw the Eversource bill went down for the high school. Except the problem is, we have now split the Eversource bill into 2 bills. So the high bill that we had last month was strictly Eversource. Now we have Eversource and TransCanada, the supplier. So this is just the
Eversource half? or
Eversource portion and not the TransCanada portion of the
Delivery
bill.
and generation.
Did that come in yet?
Not
wasn't
that I
in as
have
of
seen,
10
but I
days
haven't
ago.
looked at the bills that haven't been entered yet. I don't see them sometimes until they've been entered.
So the answer to my
thanks.
question is, we're not really sure.
We're still not really sure.
It begs the question, what was the rate differential between Eversource and TransCanada?
TransCanada is 7.9
It's cents, those are cents. I mean, it's very small.
cents versus CLMP's, what is it, 11, 16, something? No,
That's a
it's,
pretty substantial savings.
it's a substantial savings getting it on the Eversource.
If it's,
I mean, on the
even if it's 8 to
TransCanada.
11, that's a pretty substantial savings.
Split up, then.
Getting it on the
Yeah, we do both.
TransCanada bid.
We do both
It was
of
just,
those.
there was a lapse between the time that we closed, the old meter was closed and the
Big
new one was
difference.
put on, that we could get it onto TransCanada.
It's my understanding a utility has to go to Hartford in order to raise the rates. Now, if you have someone that's just using transportation and that's part of their billing process, they could just raise the rates anytime.
No,
Can't
sign
they?
a contract with them.
Well,
No.
but I mean, the contract is just 1 year, isn't it? Or how long? what's
Our
the length of it?
TransCanada one?
Yes.
No, we just bid that out, effective
It's a 3-year contract.
3-year. Yeah, it's multiple years. And we just bid that one out recently, in
In
conjunction with
conjunction
the
with the
town.
town?
Yes.
Yeah. Any,
CCM. It's through CCM.
any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you very much. Sorry we held you longer. Hopefully they're still meeting. Item 3. Oh, wait a second. Before we do that, hold on a minute.
We have to sort of approve.
Yeah, is there a motion to accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for December 2015?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Recusals? None? Okay, thank you. All right, item 3, approve minutes. 2.1 would be the regular meeting minutes of December 21st, 2015. Any changes, questions, comments, et cetera? Yep, Mike?
Couple of small things, page 3, just small typo, third paragraph, third sentence, just says that the chair was going to check with the town attorney to have her weigh in on it. Wait probably would be a good thing. On page 4, just the reverse of the years, just again clarifying on right about the middle of the page where it says, Ms. Trudeau said they were almost done with the fuel from fiscal year 14-15. It was 32,000 gallons. It goes on and it says 2016-15. So it should probably be 15-16, just to be clear. And then one clarification on page 5. Right up at the top, second paragraph. Mr. Ailes said he is pleased to hear that because there were discussions, we could change the "in the beginning" to prior to the referendum for the new high school. About rental of the auditorium as being a minor revenue source. Just want to clarify what the beginning was. That's it.
Usually can do that. That's right. Go Rotary. Rotary. Rotary usually can do that, right?
Anybody else?
I have one.
Ken?
2.3, regular meeting minutes of November 16. Should read, Mr. Gemmerman asked whether or not they are contemplating hiring new paraprofessionals during the course of the year. I didn't say they are not contemplating it. I asked whether they are planning to contemplate it,
Okay.
or they're contemplating the possibility of hiring paraprofessionals. Matter of fact, it's a good question.
In fact, you need to hold that, because that is modifying the regular meeting minutes of November 16.
But it
We are
was-
currently doing the November 15th meeting, so you are amending the November 16th meeting. So we're going to have to entertain that as soon as we approve these minutes. Sorry. It's- Anybody else?
I have a question, so not a
Certainly,
clarification.
certainly.
And it's actually from Mr. Mazza. It discusses the golf course and that there's, the request for proposal's been out. Have the bids come in? Is that still in process?
The bids are not due until Friday. It's coming Friday. We had a walkthrough, week.
Bid opening at the end of January. Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
All right, call the question on minutes from the December 21st, 2015 meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals? Abstained, thank you. All right, let's add an item to the agenda, and that would be 2.2, and it is regular meeting minutes of November 16th, 2015. Is there a motion to add that? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals? Ken, you've asked that reflect that you asked whether they are contemplating not hiring.
Exactly.
Right. Anything further on those
No.
minutes? None? Call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Recusals? None. Thank you. Sorry to go to that length, but I think that's the
No,
proper
you're
way
right.
to do it.
My mistake.
No, it's not your mistake. At least I was awake tonight. Not to suggest that I'm not otherwise, but, item 4. Correspondence, standing building committee minutes. Mike, anything you want to bring to our attention?
We received our minutes of the Standing Building Committee at, I believe, 3 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you. By email, so I don't know who had a chance to go through them, but it's been a while since I've actually done a report and had the minutes in my hand, so. I was at
Make
the
the best
meeting.
of
I'll make the best of it, that's right. Just a couple of, I'm just gonna hit some highlights, in order, but skipping around. There was some review of the performance contracting consulting RFQ. Some discussion regarding that. That should be going out shortly. It was a draft version. Standing Fields Committee, there was a presentation on the Upper Cox Field reconstruction. The building committee members agreed to recommend that it move forward. Adams Windows Doors renovation, there's a few punch list items left, so that's going to remain open for a little while longer. District-wide security upgrades, a couple of outstanding items, and final installation of the intercoms is being completed, so that should be coming off soon. Melissa Jones, security upgrades. This was referred to a little while ago in our meeting regarding the HVAC unit, so I guess now we know what it was. And Ken, you did actually address some of the invoices, or invoicing of, this is at Jones, the HVAC unit problems. They were tripping out, and they, ultimately, it's going to be corrected by the end of this month. They knew of the issue. It's really more with the cooling system than it is with the heating system. So luckily, that's not too much of an issue right now this time of year. Adams Elevator is up and running, a couple of punch list items left, and there was some discussion about the Science Wing renovations project, some change orders. That should be open, I believe, end of February, am I hearing? Is it February or March?
On the science wing?
Yeah, on the fitness center.
Fitness center.
Wellness center, I think.
Fitness center, not wellness.
Wellness
No,
center.
they were
fitness
saying
center?
wellness center
is what
across
they
the
were
hallway.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, on that building over by the new high school?
Standalone.
That one? Yeah,
We'll say by March.
by March,
Yeah.
okay. I know it's trending.
Park and Rec is gonna try to include that building in their spring catalog.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing at the very end, there is a new RFQ going out for on-call architects and engineers. I guess the 2-year term is up, or 3 years, whatever the term is, but that is, I know it's out, because I've seen it. And I've only seen it, and that's as far as it's going in my office, so. That's it.
Mike, did you clarify that confusion about whether that Adams elevator circuit breaker
Yes.
was a code
It was a
item or
code-
not? It was a code item.
Yeah, I did ask that question regarding the circuit breaker change order, and they did find out after that meeting, they found out it was a code issue, and they had to approve it at another kind of a special
Alright.
meeting that they need to do about a week or two later. But they did approve it for code purposes.
When they say they have 86% completion of contractor services for the Science Wing project, does that mean an aggregate or from one supplier? That's.
I'm sorry,
They're on
wait.
target, I'm looking,
Approval
I'm
bill?
sorry, I'm looking at item 14.
Approval bill, yeah, that makes sense.
It's almost complete.
Yeah. At least according to the standing building committee, it is, so. That is for 86% completion, that's of the HVAC.
Right. And on the last page of the minutes, the $10,000 on the Guilford Lakes roof, is that completed, or is there other?
Yes.
That's
Yes,
final
yes.
payment.
Yes, that's it.
Mike, just one thing I want to note, and I don't recall seeing something like this before, but on page 3, it's the last paragraph in 9, relative to some electrical work that needs to be done at the science wing. And Mr. Girdham noted he will talk to his in-house electrician to see if he would be able to perform this work at a lower cost. Is that something we've done much of, using the in-house electrician to avoid contracting?
I think it's as long as it's under the threshold. The amount that they're talking about is maybe $1,000.
So, okay. Just glad to see that we're using internal resources to do something rather than.
Yeah,
Okay.
if
Bring
it hits
somebody
the
else up.
threshold, I think it's, before you have to get bids, and
Right.
trying to remember the number, 7,500? Or is
Well, I
it-
don't even know if
On
you
the
have to do that.
town purchasing policy,
Yep,
anything over 7,500, you have to get this.
right,
Anything below, 3 estimates.
right, 3 estimates, and then this is, yeah.
Good. All right. Anything further? 4.2, pension committee minutes. Comments, questions, et cetera? I think there's just a lot of, I think they've missed a few meetings, so it really feels like they're caught
They're
up
really
on a
caught
lot
up
of
on this
catch up, yeah.
A lot of homework.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Anything? Let's move on to item 5. Review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for December 2015. Last time we're gonna say that, right?
Yes.
Good evening, Sheila. What would you like to bring to our attention?
Well, we're halfway through the fiscal year, so on the revenue side, we've collected 63.9% of our budget compared to 64.6% last December. I took a look at the tax collections. I was a little concerned about the disparity between last year and this year, and we did make some adjustments. A little closer now, a little less than last year. We're now at 64.2 versus 64.8 compared to last year, but that's really fine. That's yeah, exactly. Most of the departments are actually doing very well on the revenue side. Ambulance, fire is supposed to be at 43%, 42%, and they are at 53%, so they're far ahead of where they should be at this point in the year. Building department is still strong, town clerk, so we're still seeing good local revenues coming in, higher than budgeted, at least at this point in the year.
Sheila, quick question on tax collectors. The refunds, tax overpayment, how's that running relative to previous years, et cetera? You know?
We don't budget for it because I feel that in most cases, they're current year overpayments, so it shows up twice on the revenue side and then one time on this side as a credit.
Yep.
It's usually not much more than this. I think that's not, a number to be worried about.
Okay.
You're looking at the 142,000.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not.
Assessment appeals don't come out of that line item or not?
We really haven't had many refunds this year. Yeah.
That's what I was going to. Okay.
Sheila, on this money remaining to collect from the state, from Board of Ed in the state of Connecticut, it's running comparable to last year, but can you just enlighten me as to why that's 26% instead of,
Are we looking at ECS?
we're looking at this right here?
Yeah. The bottom line. Well, ECS is actually the biggest part of that. That's the
Right.
Educational Cost Sharing Grant. And that comes in installments that are 50%, 20, I think it's 25, 25, and 50.
Okay.
And
So
so
we've only gotten one
it's a time
installment in
issue.
there.
Actually, maybe 25, 25, and 50. But it's a timing issue there where the December 31st, which would be the second installment, was probably not received on December 31st.
It's
Okay.
strategically done by the state, so they're sitting
Yeah.
on the interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're assuming that.
Joe.
You're assuming the money's actually there.
However, this might be a good time to mention that we were cut 113,000 in the ECS
Right.
grant.
Saw that.
Okay.
I'm hoping, I think I said this last month, that we might see some small little offset in terms of the prior year excess cost adjustment. So I don't know that yet, but next month I will.
You will. Good. Anybody else with questions on revenues? Sheila, Fire Department continues to be strong, and that's a month in arrears.
Right. Their call volume is up, the chief reported this morning.
Okay. Youth and Family Services also a month in arrears?
Yes. And Park and Rec is low, but that's okay because most of their revenues come
Comes
in
in
the
the spring.
spring.
Yep. Anybody else on revenue? Shall we move on to expenditures?
Expenditures, we're obligated at 58.6% compared to 58.9% last year. There's really nothing unusual here at all. Any of the departments that may look a little bit over, that's either due to timing or encumbrances that are posted, the same story that we have every year. It's just, that's the way it runs.
Replacement salaries in fire?
Well,
Could you
replacement
explain
salaries
that?
in fire is high due to a couple of things. One is the call volume is up, and so there's the call-in, the part-time call-in is it part of that replacement, so that drives, additional call volume drives that replacement up. And there's also one firefighter that's been on workers' comp for quite some time now. So he has to be replaced. I mean, there is built-in sick replacement hours in the budget, but not when it gets to be an extended time period, a long workers' comp absence. So that there is replacement, extra replacement there.
And we received some of the workers' comp payments.
And the workers' comp will offset,
Correct.
I think I figured about $60,000 in workers' comp offset for the replacement.
Replacement salary.
It just doesn't go into the replacement line, it goes into a workers' comp line, then,
Right.
and it's offset by savings in full-time salaries.
Right.
Because
While we're in the fire department, I see you adjusted, revised the budget for full-time salaries, overtime, as well as replacement salaries and stipends. Is that as a result of the settlement of the contract and the movement of the funds from
Yes.
reserve for personnel to
Yes.
fire department?
Yes.
Okay.
One small question, I guess. Money-wise, human services. It's at about 74%, and usually it's 100% at this time of the year. I know it's not a large amount, but is it still a timing issue, or is
No.
there certain organizations that?
Didn't
don't ask
send
for
us
the
a bill,
time,
and
They have to ask for the
they
funds.
do,
Right.
and normally if we have a minute, we try to call them and remind them to send us a bill.
Yeah,
We'll take a look at it, we'll see.
because I know that's always 100%. Well, it seems to be nearly 100% expended by this time of the year. I just didn't know if there was a particular reason or a particular organization that was delinquent or wasn't asking for it or changed their mind, which is usually not the case.
Well, there's
As
actually.
we'll find out in the workshop.
There's actually 4 of them that have not asked, so,
Okay.
you know, we may need
Wow.
to,
Push them.
actually, they'll be at the budget workshops, either tomorrow or Thursday, so we can catch them then. Let them know.
Sheila, on legal, assessment reevaluation at 92,000 still available. What kind of projections are you looking at there? And that leads to the larger question of what do we have left?
There's very little left on the reval year. There's a few outstanding on the following year, which is the 14 grand list.
List, yeah.
Not anything that's gonna drive up those legal fees. I suspect that we'll have a surplus there, at least in that line.
Okay.
I can't really predict at this point without getting more information how much, but I can't imagine that we're gonna spend the $92,000 on reval.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
When is our next reval? Are there next year?
10/1/17.
Anybody else? Go to warrants? Mike? You wanna go?
Special fund? Sure. Weekly checks? I don't know if you all noticed, but I think this is the first time in several months that we didn't have one from Guilford High School from the contractor for a large amount, which was refreshing to see, although there were a lot of GHS bonded project checks. Just curious as far as, there wasn't one this month, but I'm sure there's gonna be another one, you know, as the project finishes up. Percentage complete, knowing where that stands, how many more, what's left in terms of the amount that we'll be paying?
I don't have the number tonight, but I can have it tomorrow, if I see you tomorrow or the following day.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
On what? On warrants?
Yeah. Warrants or special fund or
Any of the funds?
any of the funds?
General fund?
General fund, special fund?
I got a couple of questions on the general fund. AT&T Mobility, I'm curious about the cellular bills we pay. I see a lot of AT&T Mobility, several people, $3,000, $3,000, $3,000. How many do we pay all fire and police personnel for their phones? Do they have independent phones? Who gets,
The communications department handles all of the cell phones in the whole, for the town, including their own, the fire department. They manage, we do not, all the bills go through communications to us, and they also, they know exactly who has the phones, and they manage the whole mobile phone.
so how many people in town do we provide cell phones for?
I can't tell you now exactly how many. It's very few on the town side. There's a handful.
It's all emergency service people.
But yeah, it's truly,
Plus
So-
myself.
I would assume it would be you,
Town
but it's,
engineer.
but everybody doesn't, cell phones are so ubiquitous now, everybody has their own cell phone. Are we
But then we'd have to reimburse them for town use.
correct?
Okay, and
But are we
it's much,
paying
much
$100?
much cheaper to provide cell phones to certain management positions like myself and engineer, public works supervisors,
But this
all
looks-
emergency service personnel.
So all emergency personnel, okay.
that's really the bulk.
And that's
of
primarily, you think
this.
that's 90% of it then?
Yes.
Probably more than 90%.
Okay. LeClaire Ryan, legal, $20,000. I saw a number of LeClaire Ryans, I think there's more than one in there. I know we use LeClaire Ryan for planning and zoning hearings.
Town
We
attorney.
we also use it for labor, and we also use it for assessments
Yes,
on
assessment.
appeals?
Yep.
Okay, and so it's different lawyers for each one of those three presumably? Most
Different
likely.
lawyers within the firm.
Right, okay. Hold on, I thought I had another one, give bear with me. Oh, utilities police basketball. So I see, well, there are two monthly bills. I see in December 14th, we got a $1,700, says utility police basketball, so I immediately think it's the
It's-
lights on the basketball court.
It's combined with the actual building.
It is, so that's the whole building and the basketball court.
Right.
Okay, and so the one there's another one for another $1,300 or $1,400 a month ago. So the utility bill at the police building is $1,700 a
Right.
month then? Okay.
Depending on the month, yes.
What are boxwood tree supplies?
That was,
Decorations.
Okay, nice. I thought I had one more that I was curious about. We got AT&T Mobility, bear with me, bear with me. Utilities street lighting, it doesn't say where. I'm curious, it's 2,000 and then another one for 2,200. It says utilities street lighting for account 54,500. I don't recollect off the top of my head which.
it's town properties, and that's for the street lighting, electrical service.
All around,
All
throughout town?
On town roads. Mhm.
Okay. That seems, Bishop's Orchard's legal, $2,500. What's that?
That's a legal matter, I would assume. I'm not-
Does the town have a legal matter with Bishop's Orchards?
I'd be happy to explain that in executive session.
Okay. Ready for this? Oh, is this an offset from payroll? I see payroll deductions exchange, it's a.
Can you do me a favor, just give everybody a page reference?
Oh, I'm
numbers?
sorry.
Yeah.
Page 13, police union dues and long-term disability. And it says payroll deductions exchange. To me, they strike me as things that the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for. Are these offsets to something else?
They're not, because they're under a balance sheet account, so that would not fall under an expense, a town expense, and it's just a pass-through account.
So, okay, so it isn't, there's an offset then, so it's not something that we're paying for, the
Right.
taxpayer's not paying for it?
Right.
Okay.
Nope.
Least utility. One more time, I know I've asked this before and I just forgot. Fire hydrant rental, can you just explain that transfer for water? It's $36,000, town properties, fire hydrant rental. This goes to the fire, can you explain that transfer process to me again?
It's the payment that we make for the hydrants, because the water lines are wider in order for the water to flow. So they call it an inch-foot charge for all the hydrants in town, and we pay that
We
to
pay that
Connecticut
to...
Water Company.
Oh, this goes to the water company?
Right. We pay a bill every month to the water company of about that much,
So
36.
it's $36,000 a month, and this isn't a volume usage charge, this is actually a...
They call it inch-foot, so it's the length of,
They're guaranteeing pressure, as I understood the previous explanations. Right?
It's the
So-
guaranteed
It's
pressure
super
at the hydrant.
expensive.
So it's not really, we own the hydrants though, right? Or there was,
Well, I thought that we rented them.
No, the water company owns it.
Right.
water company owns the hydrants. Okay, and so this is what the charge we pay
to have
to
that.
ensure that there's enough pressure going
Yes.
through the line, and otherwise they'd give us what?
A trickle.
Right.
They're gonna give us a 4-inch pipe instead of a 2-inch pipe, so we pay more for the 2-inch pipe? I don't get it.
I had the identical reaction when I saw
We were
this
waiting
the
to
first
see how
time.
long it was gonna be.
We took a poll, and it's like astounding, this number. This is a good, Wall Street needs to know about this, because they're missing
Seriously,
out on an opportunity. They could create derivatives out of this and sell it to people. It's a huge
Big
number.
short on water.
and
It makes,
they are in
makes
a
no
good-
sense to me.
I-
It's the same water line, so it's the same,
Well, it's a
it's the
different
same
water line.
main,
It's
no,
a
but it's the
high-pressure
same
line.
main, no, it's the same main that goes down the street that taps into your house, is it not?
That
It's an
I don't
off-feed
know
off
for
of
sure,
that.
but
I think it
That's
is.
not the way I came to understand it. I came to understand it that really these hydrants are pressurized in a way that when the time comes to fight fires, they're gonna have sufficient pressure in the lines to make it
More
happen.
pressure than you need for your.
I would think that would be incumbent on
It's
the water
basically,
company.
it's basically a service and maintenance, it's just making sure you have the water, it's similar to what Lou said.
I'll get,
It's like
Yeah,
the old,
Charlie will-
for
will
those of
explain
It's
it to
worth
me.
getting an explanation.
For
I'll get-
those of you who
Charlie
have the
should know.
linebacker charge, where they protect your,
Oh, yeah.
it's the same thing.
I have one question, it's a real minor point. I was just wondering, why does the town reimburse for co-pays on medical expenses? It's a heart and hypertension deal, it's a small charge, but I was surprised that there's a reimbursement of $20.
That is the settlement that is negotiated when you have a heart and hypertension case.
So you have absolutely no medical expenses whatsoever?
Related
That's
to the
not
heart
true.
and hypertension.
I could sort of try, I suspect what happens is if the claimant makes a payment that's originally contested and then becomes no longer contested, somebody decides that it's actually related to the case. In that case, the employer has to reimburse those medical expenses. So they can be really small. There can be a series of small expenses, because somebody could go to a doctor, and then they get a test, and then they get a certain treatment, and there could be co-pays along the way, and those get reimbursed.
I mean, we are experienced, or we have experienced cases where an employee is on heart and hypertension and then develops another illness and tries to claim
Right.
more reimbursement, and we have fought those cases and have won. And say, no, this is not related. But you'd be surprised, we'll pay for a $20 prescription. But
That's a
that was the
copay,
original
isn't it?
settlement.
I'm sorry, I have one more that jumps out.
But thank God the legislature in 1996 said no more. And this is
Well-
why,
They shifted the burden of proof. but-
yeah, and this is why, you know, we kind of fight every time the legislature goes into session for the mental bill,
No question.
which is a rebirth of heart and hypertension.
Hypertension, just a different format.
In a
It'd be-
different
it'd be-
form.
Yeah, I had one thing out of general fund. I wondered if that legal bill of $2,100 on eminent domain, was that on the issue that came before us?
That's correct.
Is that the total legal billing?
Depends who the attorney was.
That was Ciolo and Donofrio.
Ciolano and Donofrio,
D'Onofrio, yes. Right.
complete billing.
That's right.
Sheila, one more. Utilities, I see $2,000 for utilities on Seaside Avenue. which is, I presume, down by the beach or something, but what utilities do we have down there that cost $2,000?
At Jacob's Beach?
Yeah.
Power, water.
In November?
It could be
Could be a limited bill.
October bill.
Still seems high. I don't even think we have, in the summertime, they run the camps there. They don't even use electricity then. You live down there. What's power down
There's
there?
also, yeah, well, I'll take a look
Well,
at
we
it.
don't get any power for the kayaks at the kayak rental.
Seriously, $2,000 bucks?
For
That's
your motorized
24 grand a
kayak,
year
yeah.
on power at
Yeah.
Jacobs Beach? No
You can
way.
recharge.
That drive-in movie
Okay.
screen. Make that road pop up.
Yeah.
All right.
Take a look.
Anything further? Medical benefits, tough, another tough month, health-wise for our employees. We're still projecting, a surplus at the end of the year at 376, although, that'll disappear if we have a couple more months like we did, the last two. Where are we with, catastrophic claims?
It should be on the report.
Oh, yeah.
We're at 455.
No, I mean, number of claims.
Oh, not that many.
Okay.
Maybe 6 or 7 at the very most.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll even reach, but we talked about this last month.
Right.
It's not, we don't have to, our premium isn't judged on a 1-year
No,
timeframe.
it's yeah, you gotta use a 3-year rolling average, there's no question about it. And that ISL premium is $880, so we're already better than halfway there
Right.
anyway. But there are not a lot that are close to the stopgap.
No,
at
because
this
there's not
point.
that many
Right.
claimants that are at that 50% level.
Cool. Anybody else with questions on it?
No?
Building permits, golf course, we just talked about that. Those bids will be in Friday, you said?
I think it's the 22nd is the respond date,
Okay.
if not the end of the month.
So,
We had a walkthrough on last Wednesday.
Right.
We had 4 interested parties.
Okay.
So I've been led to believe that the golf course lost $30,000 a year because that was the amount we transferred in. But based on what I'm seeing here now,
No,
it loses
it's more than that.
$90,000 a year.
It's more than that.
80 to 90, yeah.
Okay.
30 is the offset.
Yeah, 30 is the in-kind transfer.
What,
the operating
what accounts for the increase in utilities over the previous year?
Water,
Water.
dry season,
Yep.
tapped into the hydrants.
And
No, I'm just kidding. He looked too serious. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
part-time salaries also up?
A full-time salary is just a 4-month position though, right?
No,
No.
no.
12 months.
It's, so,
It's a full year.
but you're not allowed to sled out there or anything in the wintertime. What are they doing in the wintertime?
No, the golf course
Is
is
closed.
open in April,
Yeah,
closes in November.
right. So this full-time salary is for 6 months.
Well,
Time
no more than 6 months, but the superintendent works when the golf course is closed. But he doesn't work a 40-hour week when it's open. He
You're
works
saying it
more like
averages-
a
It's an
Yeah.
annual,
40-hour week.
it's an
Right,
annual
it's the
salary.
equivalent.
So he works it's a 2,000 hour a
Yeah.
year job.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So will we have anything in time for budget on that?
I'm hoping.
Good.
Okay.
That would be.
Now, that's assuming we get
An acceptable bid.
Bid.
acceptable bids, yeah.
So I just want to point something else out. With regard to the golf course, if you look at the admin costs, the salaries, the lack of concession revenue that we get, I personally am of the opinion that there is a number that the town should be willing to pay to keep the golf course in town. I've been led to believe the number was 30, and the thing I equate it with, I'm an avid hockey fan and play hockey and love hockey, and if we pay $20,000 a year for ice for the hockey teams, and that probably benefits no more than 50 people in town that get to use it, and the golf course is used by hundreds of people in town. So we're not talking about a large number relative to the budget. And so I think I'm sure I know you use the golf course, Joe, and so it's.
Some of us do.
Yeah, well, Joe, I know this. So that I'm hoping that from the town's perspective, there's a number at which it doesn't really make sense to privatize it. And privatize probably isn't the right word. That you're privatizing the business. You're not getting rid of the asset. At least I hope we're not disposing of the asset yet.
No, we're not
So-
going to do that. I mean, the note is pretty much paid off. And that would be foolish to get rid of it. And I think we're thinking along the same lines. I mean, it's an asset to the town. It's used by a lot of our residents and a lot of residents in the area. It's had a lot of value to the area. And it'd be foolish to get rid of it. We paid a lot of money for it. And no one equates of really how much the beaches cost us, or the tennis courts, or
Exactly.
all the ball fields. Matt, the chairman and I have talked about this many times. If we don't get a viable bid, and we can put together a good contract to manage it, I think the best thing to do is to take it out as an enterprising fund, do away with that, and make it a regular town department.
Right.
Put their revenue in the revenue budget, put their expenses in the expense budget, and do away with the P&L that you all see.
Right.
And treat it as a regular department, and be done with it.
I would agree with that.
And then we won't have to, wouldn't have to,
Yeah, no, I understand it got over there because of the Board of Finance is the one that.
I mean,
No,
that
if you
course
scrutinize, you can go
has
through
been
and
in
scrutinize.
existence for, oh, Matt, help me out, what, 10, 12 years? Or more? Has to be if the note's paid off.
Peter Culver was on the board then.
Yeah, Peter Culver was on the board then.
The saga of these various commissions
And then,
fill,
and run it like
a series of
another
books.
offshoot of Park and
Park
Rec,
and Rec.
for
yeah,
instance.
right.
And then we won't have to banter back and forth about it.
There was no floor put under the bids, was there?
No.
It's whatever they,
And I got to tip my hat to Joe Dunsmore. He's treated that like his baby, and he's done a tremendous amount of work in putting this bid package together. Him and Pam Millman have worked,
he's a very good man.
put in a lot of hours.
Yep.
And thank God when they had the walkthrough, it was a beautiful day. There was no snow on the ground. So the comments we got from the 4 potential bidders was they couldn't believe what a beautiful course it is. And the condition was absolutely marvelous. And they said it was really country club condition.
Well, we finally got some rain in the fall, which helped.
Yeah,
And it's nice and warm.
yeah.
That was good.
What do we do?
So I agree with you, Ken.
Right.
I mean, let's make it a regular department if we
Exactly.
can't get a good management contract.
We've been on that same page for a long time.
Matt, you and I have agreed for a long time on that.
But you bring up a good point, assets, and I don't want to prejudge I guess it would be in the RFP document, which I haven't looked at. We own assets in terms of equipment out there. What would we do with that equipment if we bring in a private company to manage it? Would they have access to that equipment? They have to
Well,
buy it?
some of
They
the
have to buy it?
remarks that were made during the walkthrough was, we'll use our own equipment. That was 1 or 2 bidders says, no, we'll use our own equipment. Others didn't make any comment about the equipment.
Okay.
But if you look at the capital, 5-year capital plan, they're looking to replace some of that equipment anyway.
Right.
So in the budget that you'll see tomorrow, Sheila and I have already delayed some of the purchase of the equipment.
Okay.
Okay?
That
So
was where I was going. That's where I was
that's where you're going.
Yeah, you know.
Along that asset line, when we dispose of town assets, I know that we've had auctions, we've auctioned off the boat, for example, and a couple other things have been auctioned off, but when we get rid of equipment, I know, for example, Jim wants a new loader, and we've got some requests for dump trucks and whatnot. When we take cars and trucks, are they, if they're not traded in when we get the new one, I don't often see the other ones up for sale? Where do they all go? And
We
how does
have,
one?
it's part of our purchasing policy, you gotta get a hold of that policy. There's a policy, it's a good one, that delineates the procedure to get rid of equipment, depending on the type of equipment. Now, let's start with the easy ones, the automobiles. The only departments that got new automobiles would be the emergency services, fire and police. When they get a new automobile, the automobiles that they have then get passed down to the other departments. Like my
Okay,
vehicle is a used police vehicle. It's the deputy police commissioner,
Deputy chief.
chief of police, thank you, vehicle, okay? I got it when it was 87,000 miles. Looks brand new,
I thought it was brand new myself.
because we keep them in good shape, okay? That's how we pass down those vehicles. Now, when that vehicle gets really old, we then get rid of it by either way of an auction, or if it's really bad, we'll put it up on the website and then offer it for sale. If it's really, really bad, then we just junk it.
So the auctions are noticed in the paper, otherwise, if
It's
it's
a-
not warranting an auction, then it
It's
gets
a
put
whole
on
procedure.
the town website.
That's right, okay. Now, the same thing with dump trucks, and with tractors, or any of that type of equipment.
Okay.
But there's a whole procedure on how we get rid of it. And it's usually a sealed bid. I mean, it might be a couple of our employees might like to buy a 20-year-old truck. They'll have to put in a sealed bid for it. It's the same thing like any other bid process.
Anything else? On the town side? Good. Is there a motion to approve the bills for the town for the month of December in the amount of $2,184,468? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None? Good. Thank you. Sheila, you want to stay there for just a quick second in case anybody has any questions? Let's move on to item number 6, and that is to set the interest rate for the Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Program. For those in our viewing audience, the Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Program is a program that's been on the books for a long time, longer than we've been doing this, right? Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Program.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's been on for a while, which basically allows those who meet certain thresholds to defer the payment of taxes, the increases rather, on their tax bill. But that deferral accumulates interest over time, and we are required by charter to set the interest rate for the upcoming year. We typically do that consistent with the current yield on AAA tax-exempt 20-year obligation municipal bonds as reported by Townsend Financial. And Sheila is recommending that that is at 2.48%. Is there a motion to set the Guilford Supplementary Tax Relief Plan, better known as GSTRAP, at 2.48%?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
I have a question on that. On the
Sure.
loan, does that become a liability of the estate when they're
Yep.
deceased, or does that it doesn't get written off upon death?
It's a deferment.
Okay.
It's a lien, basically.
Or-
It's a lien.
Yeah.
Item 7, set the cap for aggregate benefit under Section E2 of the Elderly Tax Relief Program Ordinance. This board is also charged by charter with setting the cap for the amount of money available for the Elderly Tax Relief Program. By charter, should not be less than 0.5% of the current fiscal year. And at this point, our budget is $90,703,425. So that 0.5% would be $453,517, which would not be sufficient to cover the current participants in the program. For the last 2 years, the 2014-15 and 15-16 budget years, we have set the cap at $1,350,000. The benefits paid out under the most recent year for the program were $1,017,176, and the finance director is recommending that we set it at $1.35 million again. Are there any questions or comments? Mike?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay. What, question or
I've been
comment?
on the board for a while, but I'm wondering. Obviously, big proponent, but I guess what would be the, I know we've kept the cap at 1.35 million, and the benefits have been pretty steady, if not down. What would be the result of bringing the cap down? It doesn't really do anything, right?
No, because I make an adjustment based on the actual benefits that are approved. If the cap is set too low and it happens to go higher, it causes a lot of
Well, as we
issues
experienced
for
a couple
the
of years.
assessor.
Yeah.
Right, so I'd rather keep it high and then, not high, but, just a little.
It's kind of the same question that, well, if you bond for a certain amount and you don't spend it all, does it hurt you? No, you just don't spend it all. It's the same idea.
Right.
I just wanted to clarify it because
That's a helpful
if
question.
anybody sees these numbers, they're like, well, why is the cap so high?
It's just an
Well,
authorization.
Why do we have to spend that much? Well,
Right.
we're not. It's
Right.
just making sure we don't, it's a cap, that's all it is a cap.
Right.
Thank you.
Just one comment. We seem to have seen for the past 6 years anyway, a rather consistent range in terms of the number of beneficiaries. That there had been discussions at one point that this was going to spiral to places where we would be approving $2, $3, $4 million worth of deferrals. So what I think we're starting to see is a natural aging off process, if you will. I hate to say it that way, but it's actuarial based. Those folks who are entitled to this are older. They probably are as they leave, they're probably being replaced by others. So it should fall within a relatively consistent window over time. The only increase, obviously, would be increases in the budget itself, because of higher tax bills.
Yeah, but as that happens, though, it should become less to the town because the people that have been on there for a long time froze their taxes when it was lower.
Right.
So now when someone new comes on, they're freezing it at a higher tax.
Good. All right. And are you all set?
I'm good.
Anybody else? Is there a motion
So moved.
to set it at 1.35, 1,350,000? So moved. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? No. Thank you.
This is an argument I had with a former first selectman of Madison, who thought he knew everything. Why he didn't want it in his town, he said we would. This wouldn't last 5 years.
What did he know?
He's not first selectman anymore.
All right, 8, committee reports. Mike, anything on the high school building at this point?
Not a heck of a lot. Demo is 100%.
Right.
The big pile in front, if you've driven by, of dirt
Right.
is, I believe, gone.
Yep.
So it's starting to look like it's getting complete. Grading is finishing up, and they're still tracking on schedule and within budget.
Any opportunity for new surprises, or no, we've made it through without anything?
No, I would say we're pretty safe right now. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. The demo and taking down the building was much better than we thought it was going to be.
That's
As
great.
as a community, but as the building committee saw, so.
How we do with that banister?
The banister.
That had to be
Is that
replaced?
the one at the stair?
Yes.
The stair,
Any-
I have to tell you, I don't know.
Any cost? I mean, it was a cost, but we don't know what the cost is.
Yeah, that was the banister that had to do with the code, with the fire marshal,
Right,
the
right,
building
right, right.
official going through. I can't answer that. I'm sure it's getting taken care of. I do know that last meeting, there was some discussion.
Flooding.
About the flooding. It was a temporary condition, they're aware of it and taking care of it. But they did know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one getting my feet wet.
Yeah.
I assume it's dirt from the high school. There's a huge pile of dirt back in behind Baldwin on the town property back there that we're creating and sifting, and what's going on back there?
Behind Baldwin? I
Uh-huh.
don't know, I'm looking at it.
Huge pile of dirt, and there are some, it looks like curb stones in there, but it's being separated, and I'm curious to know who's getting it's a huge mountain of topsoil. It's on town property. It's right when you drive down into Baldwin, you go through the fence there, and there's their big septic field is back there. It's right before you get to the septic field. You can see it clearly from the parking lot. They've got
Yes, first.
they've got a couple of excavators back there and a grinding machine, and it looks like somebody's getting ready to cart away a couple of thousand yards of topsoil.
I know that soil has to be treated and sifted through because it's.
Well, I don't know that it
Def-
came from the high
definitely.
school. That was my
Right,
question.
but
I'm
I'm-
assuming it did, but somebody's doing a lot of work back in there.
Unless it's a temporary location, but I'd rather not assume. I mean, I could ask the question and find out.
I don't know.
But of course, if it's not that pile, building committee's not gonna know.
But who's paying for the workers? We're paying for the workers. Something's going
Oh, no,
on back there. There are a number of
I'm just
workers
saying
back
that if
there
it's not from the high
doing
school,
something.
I have no idea where the dirt's from.
It's not a town project, I can tell you
Well,
that.
it's on town property, and there were two to three people working back there.
I'm not aware of what it is either, but I can check with Cliff Gurner tomorrow and everybody, if he has, as to what it is, if it's something that the board
It's
is
a lot.
involved in.
There's a lot of work, a lot of dirt being.
I'll check with
I don't know.
Okay.
Interesting. Anything else in high school? 9, old business? 10, new business? Public forum? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.